My name is Jasmine Milan Williams, and I have been dyeing clothes professionally for about 4 years now, right here in this back room. Everything I learned about dyeing happened right here at CSUEB today, and I'm so excited to get to share with you all some safety precautions before we start to dye. Okay, so the first thing I want to start with is preparation. You want to have a face mask, you want to have gloves, protect your hands, and you also want to protect your clothes, protect your threads. We're all about the fashions here. So I have an apron, but you can put on whatever you want to protect from splatters. It can just be like old clothes that you don't care about or whatever, but you want to protect your clothes. Now you are set and ready to dye, looking good. All right, so you have your gloves, you have your apron, and you have your mask, which I don't have on now so that you all can hear me. Next thing I want to talk to you all about. These are the kind of dyes that we use in our shop. We use a liquid dye and we use powder dyes. These are the two types of dye. So what you want to know is right on the side of them, they both contain salt, sodium chloride. So what you want to do is be very careful. If you get this in your eyes or you get this on your hands, you want to like rinse it out and wash it out right away. And I wanted to show you all this particular dye. This is a dye that takes out color. So this one acts almost like a bleach. So you really want to be careful when using something like this because it could take out colors of your clothes. Where like the other dye, they might splash on you and you might just have like a new tie-dye shirt or tie-dye pants and you can be fine with that. But this will remove colors. So be careful with this specific dye. And you also want to make sure you have pot holders. Everything on this machine behind me is going to be hot. And so you're basically cooking something up, right? And what do you need when you're cooking? Pot holders, because it'll be very, very warm. And you don't really want to hold things with your gloves. These aren't for protecting from heat and hot things. This is just so that you have good grip and flexibility. And the last thing I want to show you before we start the dye safety is this. What is this? This is a stir stick. And this will act as kind of like your arm in the hot water because you don't want to reach all the way in and touch the hot water. This is what you're going to be using to control your clothing, your garment, whatever you're dyeing. This is what you're going to be using. And this stick is pretty good. If you're dyeing something that has red dye in it, which you'll get more into if you're actually dyeing a garment, but just to let you know, red dye will come off in your color. So if this is a stick that you're using for red dye, keep this stick for red dye and then use another stick for all of your other dyes. Now I'm going to show you the dyeing process. We're getting ready. So this first one is a Bunsen burner. It has two Bunsen burners there, and what it has here is a little switch that turns up your water from high, medium to low. And you would fill the water in here, and then this is where you would be dyeing your clothes. The next machine we have over here, this one is an industrial machine because it is all attached. So this one, you'd have to fill the water in and then lift the bucket up and put it on the burners. Where this one, it has these little knobs, and when you turn it on, there's your water. Perfect. So you fill that up, and then when you're done filling that up, you come around to the side, and this is going to be your power on this one. You just click it on, and then that's how you know that it's beginning to heat up the water. Here we go. All right, we are ready to learn about the safety precautions when actually starting to dye your garment. First things first, you want to have all of your materials handy so that you're not having to get down and run and grab stuff because this is going to be very hot once it's on. So I have my pot holders, I have my garment that I'm going to dye, and up here I have my stir stick, I have my mask, and I also have the dye that I'm going to use. So we are all set up and we have a working workstation. That's perfect. So we have our water in here and it's heated up. Precautions. Remember, we want to have our pot holders because now everything that is attached to this machine is going to be hot. So when handling the machine, we're only gonna be using our pot holders and not our gloves. Next thing, we have our garment. And what we've done with our stir stick is we've mixed everything in. I love this part. Makes me feel a little witchy. So we're mixing. That's good. And we find a nice little place to set our stir stick that's out of the way so it doesn't fall or we don't trip on it. Then our garment. What we want to be sure of is that the water that we're using isn't going to be too much water, because if it's too much water, when we stick the garment in, it could overflow depending on how much that we're dyeing. So we want to check our levels. Looks good. And then we're ready to put the garment in. Perfect. Again, excuse me. Like I told you, this is going to be acting like your arm, because you don't want to get your gloves or your body into that hot water. So we're going and we're stirring and we're stirring. So now we're ready to grab the garment out of the water. We're going to use our stir stick and hold the garment on our stir stick. We're kind of wanting it to drip all that excess hot water before we grab it. So we let it drip. It's dripping, looking great. And then we're gonna grab it with our hands very cautiously, making sure that when we touch it, it's not hot to touch. And then we have it, and it's beautiful, I'm sure. And it's ready to go into the cold water that you have in the sink, prepped and ready to get washed. Okay, you're done. Your garment looks beautiful, I know it does. And now you are ready to clean up, which is also a safety precaution. You want to be very careful when cleaning, and you want to treat your machine so well because this machine is working for you. So the first things first. So for this machine, what we want to do starting with cleanup is to empty out the water and the dye that's in our vat. So we're gonna, after we turn off the machine, we're gonna click this lever here, and we're gonna push our vat over, and all the water is going to spill out into our sink. All right, it was just that easy. So now that we have the water spilled out, machine's off, everything's kind of cooling down. Inside, we usually clean with bleach so that we scrub out all the excess dye. So the next time that we dye, we're not blending colors that we don't want. And that's a very, very important part of safety and precaution when dyeing clothes. And now, you're ready to start dyeing your own clothes. I mean, there's a couple of more steps that you can learn, but for safety, you're ready to go.